Welcome into Courtside Chats with AJ McCord on this Tuesday night ahead of the Blazers game against the Thunder, game number 2 in this series. This place was reverberating on Sunday morning, and today they're seeing red. I don't know if you can tell, but on every seat is a red t-shirt, and I got a feeling these fans are pretty pumped because, of course, game 1 was the end of a very long playoff win drought. It was the first playoff win in 10 games, their first one since 2016, and they did it in about as good of a way as you could ask. If you're the Blazers, there were some things they liked, some things they didn't like. We caught up with them yesterday to find out what those things were and what they'd like to change between Sunday and tonight.
I thought we did pretty well. I definitely think we could play a lot better, though, especially after watching the film. We made a lot of, I don't want to say like careless mistakes, but definitely correctable mistakes. And I think if anything, we're just more confident going in because, you know, we won and we're up 1-0 in the series, and we know how much better we can play.
It's taking care of the ball. You know, we had, I think, 19 turnovers. That's a lot more than what we've had, you know, over the second half of the season. We've been taking really good care of the ball. It's even more important against a team that loves to be out in transition. You know, they love deflecting passes and getting transition threes and attacking the rim, drawing fouls, stuff like that. And the more we turn the ball over, the more we're making it a fun game for them, you know, allowing them to play their style. So number one is taking care of the ball, and we got to try to limit those second and third opportunities.
I just kind of wanted to set the tone for just not only the game, the series. You know, I think I was just come out, be physical, be aggressive. You know, Chief on him did the same thing. Evan, same thing. Rodney, you know, where it's not just me, we got a group of guys coming at him that are all going to be aggressive and be, you know, physical with him. So we're just trying to make it tough on them. Everybody has their own different way of playing them. And mine is just to be aggressive, you know. So I got a couple fouls early. You got to try to stay out of foul trouble, but I think I did my job yesterday, which was the main thing for me, was to set the tone on him defensively.
So I'm joined now by Travis Demers of NBC Sports Northwest. You guys hear him most on the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing. So we're going to break down all those things that the Blazers just talked about. But first, I want to talk about your season of basketball because you got to do a really fun thing, fill some pretty big shoes and filling in for Wheels a couple of these games. What was that like?
Yeah, so I ended up doing half the season. You know, I did, I think 9 home games and like 32 road games. And you know, when you get into this business, we all sat there in our driveway doing the play-by-play of like the fadeaway. You know, for me as a kid, it would be like reenacting Patrick Ewing's miss against the Pacers in '95. So to have an opportunity to fill in for the best in the business and go to almost every arena in the NBA and call these iconic moments, Maurice Harkless's game winner, the game-winning shot that Dame had against the Warriors on the road at Golden State. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better in my career.
Yeah, and you did a great job, by the way. If you guys didn't hear him, you missed out. But let's talk about the game. So the Blazers talked about they want to limit turnovers. They want to limit Paul George. He got off 15 three-point attempts, only made 4 of them, but it's Paul George. You cannot rely on him missing that many shots. So who's primarily responsible for limiting his three-point attempts?
I think it's going to be a combination of guys. I mean, look, like you said, he took 15 attempts. When was the last time Paul George missed 11 three-point shots? You've got to figure out a way to run him off the three-point line. I think part of the reason why he was settling for some of those shots, he didn't feel comfortable around the rim. He had the block from Cantor, there was the block from Harkless, and he was kind of telegraphing those situations, and he was taking a long time to get rid of the ball, and that allowed Harkless to come over and make the plays. So I think there were some times where he was settling for some threes, but he also was given a lot of open threes. I think Harkless and Aminu are going to be 2 of the guys that are responsible for making sure he doesn't take 15 attempts again tonight.
And there's been a lot of rumors about George and what's really going on, right, with that shoulder. He says, I just got to get back in my rhythm. I couldn't lift my arm 4 days before game 1. But then there's some people who are saying maybe this is a torn labrum. I mean, what did you see on Sunday? Was his shot fluid, or is it really just about him getting back in a rhythm?
Look, I came out here just like you did and watched him before the game, and he was making shot after shot after shot, but they were uncontested. He didn't even have a coach in his face in a controlled environment. When you go from that after not playing for a few days, and like he said, he couldn't lift his arm, then he goes out onto the floor and he is taking contested shots, and he is taking shots where he's rubbing off screens and things like that. It's just different, and he looked like a guy who wasn't totally comfortable. He said yesterday, oh yeah, I'm great. Like you said, he couldn't move his arm, and now magically, a couple of days later, he's going to be fine. I don't buy it. If it is a torn labrum, he's going to need surgery. He's powering his way through it, and he's still at 26 the other night, but he is not the Paul George that we saw for most of the season.
No, the Paul George that averaged, I believe, 38 points in the games between the Blazers and the Thunder during the regular season. So another couple of guys, Mo and Chief. Now, their stats weren't huge. They combined for 12 points and 13 rebounds, but if you think that means they didn't impact the game, well, Dame would disagree with you.
To see Mo come out and embrace that challenge like he did tonight, that's what we need. And a lot of times what Mo does, what Chief does, it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But their impact on whether we win or lose is huge. And towards the end of the game tonight, I just told both of them, like, I love y'all. Y'all just don't know how much I love y'all for the, the stuff that y'all do for this team, and don't get credit for it. And, that was it. But a lot of things that they do, it kind of goes unnoticed, and they mean a lot to our team. So, I'm happy for Mo being able to come into this postseason healthy and have an opportunity with a challenge like Paul George. And the fact that he's embracing it is great for our team.
Mo certainly was embracing that challenge. He had 3 blocks in the first quarter of Sunday's game. So how big was he as far as setting the tone against George?
Huge, and especially there was a block early in that game. And as a team, the Blazers had 9 blocks. Right. Cantor had 4. And what about the question? Well, Cantor can't play defense. Harkless didn't have a great offensive game, but I think that's where you look at the box score sometimes and say that, oh, this guy just didn't get it done. Well, defensively, the turnovers that he forced and some of the plays that he made created opportunities in transition. They created opportunities for the Blazers to help go up 19. So while it doesn't always show up, like you said, he was critical on the defensive end. So was Aminu. They were both getting in the passing lanes. They were tipping balls. And even if they weren't forcing turnovers, they were forcing bad shots and forcing contested looks. And that's one of the reasons why the Blazers were able to get up to that lead that they did.
Yeah, and you did mention one guy who had a pretty killer stat line, Enes Kanter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he had 20 points, 18 rebounds. It's pretty wild to think about how differently his life looks now than it did in February. So here's him reflecting on the journey of the last couple months.
After we got a win, I was walking to the locker room. I saw the GM Neil, and he told me, "What a great decision, right?" I said, "I appreciate it. Thank you so much." Because I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I was in the worst team in the league, and I wasn't even playing because they thought I was too old to play. And with the situation and all the drama, everything, it was just so frustrating because all I just wanted to go out there and just win. And just a couple of days ago, I look at it in the mirror and say, man, I am blessed to just be here with an amazing organization, with an amazing teammates, and they trust in me. So that it just definitely feel amazing, and that definitely I should feel definitely blessed and appreciate it.
Kanter's gratefulness certainly showing up on the court in the form of those big stats. Now, he was on a team that he says thought he was too old to play, but Travis, that's not quite what you think.
Enes Kanter is 26 years old. How is that too old? And there's almost no profession where 26 years old is too old. The problem was he was too good, and the Knicks were trying to tank. And we all know just how bad the Knicks were this year. They want Zion, they want a top pick. They were trying to tank. So it wasn't about him being too old. They benched him, and he wanted out of there because he wasn't playing. So not only was he on a team that was the worst team in the NBA, he wasn't even getting playing time. So fortunately it worked out where he got to choose the Blazers over the Lakers and a couple of other places. And now because of the horrific injury to Nurk, not only is he playing, but he's starting, and he is a key reason why they're here.
I know, and I know Neil Olshey has taken some flack in years past, and there have been some moves he's missed on without a doubt, but you do have to give him credit for this one, because without Kanter right now, this team would be in a world of hurt.
They would be, even when Nurk was healthy, right? You had 28 minutes or so of Nurk. That leaves 20 minutes off the bench for Enes Kanter. And if he's your backup center, he is the best backup center in the NBA. They go out and they get a guy like Rodney Hood, whose game translates to what this team does very well. They go and they get Seth Curry, who does a similar skill set as C.J. McCollum, and now wasn't playing in case C.J. went out, but that way when they have different rotations, they don't have to change what they do. What happened when C.J. was hurt? Seth came in and was terrific. I think he averaged like 16 and 6, something like that. And then in the games that Nurk was out, Kanter was averaging 17 and 11 because he doesn't play defense the way that Nurk does. He's not Nurk, but he can play off the left block. He's a great offensive rebounder, and they didn't have to change what they did. So they were able to get guys who were skilled, but weren't that far outside of what they were already doing so they could just keep in line and have the same system.
Right. So we're going to get your thoughts on one more piece of sound here because, of course, Logo Lillard has become quite the phenomenon here in Portland. He's taken those crazy deep shots from three. It kind of looks like he just jacks them up casually, but he says that's absolutely not the case.
To me, that's not a bad shot for me. I'm comfortable taking it. I shoot it easily, so I think that's a good shot. And I was bringing the ball up. I heard them say they was going to switch, but they kind of went into the switch earlier where I had space, and I just rose up. You know, my mind was made up that I was coming into the game with an aggressive mentality. So, I mean, that was it. It is a shot that I shoot pretty easy. You know, so if I'm tired, I can shoot it. And when I'm fresh, I can shoot it. I just feel good about it, and it's something that I constantly work at. You know, it's not like I'm just out here firing up deep shots. You know, when I'm working out the night before games and after practice and stuff, I'm shooting these shots, so it's routine for me.
It's routine for me. That's what Lillard just said. That must be nice to be that routine from that deep on the court. What kind of impact does that have on an opposing team's defense that they have to defend so far back?
Well, that's the key, is that with most guys, you can sit back on defense and wait for them to come to you. You can't do that with Damian Lillard. So when he does have the ability to pull up from 30 or 32 feet, that means you got to pay attention. Right? It's insane that and I hear all this, oh yeah, that's Steph Curry distance. No, that's Damian Lillard distance.
Yes.
Okay, and yeah, Seth can do that, but so can Dame.
Yep.
So that makes the defense have to come up on him. It opens up movement on the offensive end. It opens up lanes for him to drive and kick. It opens up things for the pick and roll. It does so much offensively for the fact that he can literally pull up from anywhere on that side of the court and make it like it's routine.
Yeah, and I was watching during practice just a couple minutes ago. He took quite a few from the logo, the pinwheel there in the middle, and yes, he made them. So we'll look for a few more of those tonight. Travis, thank you.
Thank you
so much for joining us. Now, of course, the Thunder did have availability as well between games 1 and 2. Let's hear the best of that.
How encouraged are you going into game 2?
Very. It's a series, man. First of 4. They won the first game. That's a part of a series. Make adjustments, come back, play hard in the next game, and try to take care of business.
I didn't feel like we labored offensively. I didn't feel like, we were really struggling, and it was a grind for us. I thought we really, again, they didn't shoot a great percentage after the first quarter, either did we. So there was a lot of broken floor situations where we were able to get out in transition. We didn't capitalize great on the break, and certainly didn't capitalize when we had opportunities to score.
All right, so we are back here live at Moda. I'm joined by Steve McGehee. He is with the CBS station in Oklahoma City, has covered the Thunder for quite some time. If you missed Sunday's show, he did a great job for us.
Oh, thank you.
Of course, so I'm going to ask you a few more questions. Talking to the Thunder, it seems like they thought they lost game 1 more than the Blazers won game 1. It was more about what the Thunder didn't do than what the Blazers did do. Is that the feeling you got?
They left some shots out there on the court. Horrible start, though. They'd be down 39-25 in round 1 of a playoff. You would think Oklahoma City would have been more energized to start the game. But it started when Damian Lillard hit the 3 on the Moda, on the D on the Moda.
Yeah.
That kind of set the tone. I think they had 7 threes there in that first quarter. So that's kind of tough to defend that. But I was shocked for Oklahoma City to come out just kind of flat in that first quarter. But they looked good the rest of the way for the most part. But they feel like they're a team that left a lot of shots out there on the court. Some shots they normally make during the year just didn't go in. And it was interesting. They've been an up and down free throw shooting team. Then we missed 3 free throws, but the problem was the other shots.
Yes, exactly. So the other thing we have to talk about, of course, is Paul George and that injury. He jacked up 15 threes, only made 4 of them. To me, his shot looked fluid, but yesterday he had a huge ice pack on. He had his shoulder all wrapped. I know he's been dealing with that all season, and I don't know if you heard this earlier, but ESPN's Tracy McGrady said he thought from his experience playing that it could be a torn labrum. So interesting, right? So what do you think about George and how healthy he is?
If it was a serious injury, he would not be playing in this series. He wouldn't be playing tonight. So the trainers, they're not going to jeopardize his career by trying to win this game and letting him play hurt. It's just a matter of him. Obviously, the shoulder's not 100%. and he's got to be careful on the picks to make sure he doesn't bump his shoulder on somebody else. That could be an issue. But he was just out of rhythm. That was his first time really shooting the ball in a couple of days. Of course, he missed the last game against Milwaukee. The last game he played was against Houston, which was a victory, but he got injured in that game and sat out against Milwaukee. And so he took some days off shooting. So really that game Sunday was his first chance to get out there and put up some shots. And obviously some rust there, but now he's practiced today, practiced yesterday, got some more shots in there. He's just got to get into a rhythm. He's a guy that feeds off a rhythm like most good players do. So if he misses a couple of shots, he's going to keep on shooting until he knocks down a few, and he's capable of doing that.
Absolutely, and he talked about that. That's what Paul George says is the problem. I just got to get back in my rhythm. You know, so we'll see what happens with that. If he's even 70%, who do they look to get some of those points that he would normally get?
Well, Terrence Ferguson is a guy that was pretty quiet. He got into some foul trouble early on, and so he was sit. He's capable of knocking down some threes. Dennis Schroeder didn't make a three. Jeremy Grant didn't make a three. Russ didn't make a three. One of those guys has to make a three tonight, or it's going to be a TO advantage for the Portland Trailblazers. So all those guys I mentioned have to be capable of helping out Paul George. It can't just be 45 points of Paul George and everybody else kind of chips in with 10 or 12. Steven Adams, hopefully they go more to him. That's been the case all year. They'll go to him early in the game, and then they kind of forget about him. And then they go to him early in the third quarter, and then they kind of forget about him. So hopefully Steven Adams will have a more fluid game. It can be a force inside. And, of course, we have a new set of refs tonight. You never know. Adams gets the foul trouble.
Portland is not a fan of either, might I add.
So that's always interesting to see which player inside will get in the foul trouble, because that will dictate what happens in this game.
It certainly will. It's going to be another good one. We know that for sure. So thank you so much for joining us. Now, we know the Blazers ended this playoff drought that they had on Sunday with that win, but if you think they're satisfied, you would be wrong.
I don't think we waited so long to get back in this position. You know, I think we just won one game. You know, I think it does feel good to get back on the winning side. You know, we had 2 years of being swept, so obviously we feel good about that, but it's more about how we can sustain it. You know, us focusing on the next thing. We can't get caught up in, oh, we won a game and all that stuff, because series change quick. And you know, we can't forget that, you know, and I think that bad taste of, you know, I guess failure in the postseason doesn't go away with one win. You know, I think it's humbled us more than anything in a way where we're going to come out with that business attitude, and our focus is going to remain the same.
Certainly, one win does not a postseason success make. This team is locked in, focused, and like Dame said, they are in business mode. It is all business at Moda tonight, and they are ready to try and get Game 2, go up 2-0 on the Oklahoma City Thunder before they head to OKC for Games 3 and 4. This game tipping off in just about 45 minutes, and of course, we'll have post-game reaction for you on Coin 6 at 11. But for now, live from Courtside Chats, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the game.